The U.S. military may join Israel's strikes against Iran's nuclear program. President Trump is reportedly considering that option today. He's also calling for Iran's unconditional surrender.
Well, Iran is warning that U.S. involvement would risk, quote, all-out war. Chris Mitchell brings us the story from Jerusalem.
The president met with his national security team to discuss Iran and spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And two Israeli officials told Axios Netanyahu and the Israeli defense establishment believe Trump will likely get involved in the war in the days ahead. The U.S. is closing its embassy in Jerusalem until Friday. The main target remaining is the Fordow nuclear facility.
24 kilometers northeast of Qum is the Fordow fuel enrichment plant. The fuel being uranium with the capacity to be enriched to weapons-grade levels of 90%.
The Alma Research and Education Center released this video of Fordow built underneath a mountain that may be out of reach of Israeli munitions. It's why many are looking to the U.S. and its massive bunker-busting bombs.
What we're talking about is a specific American weapon, which is 30,000-pound precision-guided bomb, and it can only be carried by the B-2 stealth bomber right now, because that's the only plane that's configured to carry such a weapon.
On True Social, President Trump warned Ayatollah Khamenei, "We know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He is an easy target, but he is safe there. We are not going to take him out, kill, at least for now." But he warned, our patience is running thin. After the president's message, Khamenei wrote on X, "In the name of Haider, the battle begins. Ali returns to Khaybar with his Zulfikar," referring to Islam's first Imam Ali, who won the Battle of Khaybar with the sword Zulfikar. While visiting the site of an Iranian attack on a civilian neighborhood, Israel's defense minister Israel Katz warned Khamenei not to end up like Saddam Hussein, who was ultimately executed.
If you continue to commit acts of war and launch missiles at the civilian population in Israel, your fate will be exactly like that of the dictator in the neighboring country to Iran, whose end is well known.
Since the beginning of the war, Iran has fired fewer missiles every day. The IDF says it's destroyed about 40% of Iran's ballistic missile launchers.
Thanks to our strikes, the Iranian forces were pushed back to central Iran. Now they are making efforts to fire from the Isfahan area. They have retreated from western Iran, but we are pursuing them.
On Tuesday, the son of the late Shah, Reza Pahlavi, considered a leading candidate to lead Iran if the regime falls, delivered a message to the Iranian people.
The regime's apparatus of repression is falling apart. All that is needed is popular uprising to end this nightmare once and for all. Now is the time to resist. Now is the time to reclaim Iran.
Last year, CBN News' George Thomas sat down with Pahlavi for a one-on-one interview.
He has been positioning himself, Chris, for quite some time as the sort of face of the opposition outside of Iran, and his calls for the removal of the regime have only gotten louder since October 7th. He has joined, in essence, arms with Israel, continuing to, call for them to eliminate the various tentacles of this huge octopus, with the head being the Islamic regime in Iran.
And an important message of encouragement for the president from U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee. He wrote a private text message to the president, which Trump posted on True Social. It read in part, "Mr. President, God spared you in Butler, PA, to be the most consequential president in a century, maybe ever. You have many voices speaking to you, sir, but there is only one voice that matters, his voice. I believe you will hear from heaven, and that voice is far more important than mine or anyone else's. You did not seek this moment sought you. It is my honor to serve you." Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Let me break down the message that Khamenei sent, and it's kind of interesting. Ayatollah would use X to communicate this. He would send out a tweet. In the name of Haider is the Haider in Arabic means lion. And so he's claiming an ancient name for a relative of Muhammad named Ali. All the way back in the beginning of Islam, you have to go back to the 600s for this story, there was a Jewish community, around 10,000, that lived outside of Medina. It was one of the first military victories for Muhammad. And his relative, Ali, was sick, and Muhammad wanted him to lead the charge, and so he gave him a banner, and that banner apparently strengthened him. And the place where they fought is called Khyber. There was a force of 1,400 Muslims against 10,000 Jews, and they won an overwhelming victory. And the sword involved in that victory, wielded by Ali, was a double-edged sword that struck the leader of the Jewish settlement there and split his head all the way down to his teeth. That became a famous symbol. You see it throughout the Ottoman Empire. You see it throughout Iranian symbology. Sometimes it's a sword with two prongs at the end. Sometimes it's two swords with the same hilt. This is incredibly important to the Islamic faith, this battle. This is before the conquest of Mecca, to show you how fundamental it is. And in the subjugation of the Jews became the practice that infidels are to pay tribute to the Muslims when the Muslims are in control. And it became a symbol for the defeat of Judaism at the hands of Islam. So for the Ayatollah of Iran to quote all of this as he goes into hiding, he's saying, well, God will give us a great victory against the overwhelming forces of the Jews. It's really important to listen to this kind of symbology because it communicates throughout the Muslim world. We call the Khyber Pass in Afghanistan, after this same battle, the Muslims, when they invaded India and defeated the Hindus, they renamed that pass Khyber. So for him to invoke that against Israel, as Israel in turn is calling on the Lion of Judah, we're going to call on the Lion Ali, that is the clash that we're into. In America, we don't want to talk in terms of clash of religions or clash of civilizations. We don't want to discuss it that way. But clearly the Iranians are, and they clearly view it this way. We are watching history unfold before us. If Iran is defeated, if this Islamic Republic is somehow miraculously changed, where it no longer is an exporter of terrorism, it's no longer an exporter of this kind of hateful ideology, where we need to wipe out the Jews and we need to defeat the little Satan and wipe it off the map, and then we have to go after the great Satan, the United States. This Ayatollah believes the U.S. is the greatest obstacle to Islam in the world today. That's what they truly think. And are we responding in kind? Do we understand the threat that ideology presents to us? If we aren't in understanding of it, we're putting ourselves at a grave disservice. We need to understand there's a deep ideology here that's more than willing to hide until it gains enough strength so it can attack again. That's what Hamas did in Gaza. That's what Hezbollah was doing in southern Lebanon. That's what Iran has been doing for decades. Let's wake up and pay attention to what they're saying, because they really mean it.